Okay, it's 8:29, we'll call the meeting to order. Good morning, this is the Danvers Municipal Light Board, which provides oversight to the Danvers Electric Division. This is our first meeting since June, since we take July and August off each summer. And we're going to make a change to the agenda in that since the financial director has to leave early, we're going to start with items 3, 4, 5, and then items 1 and 2. So, Angelica, you have the stage for the financials.
So just to preempt,
Yes.
just to preempt, I would like to announce that as of Monday, officially, we have our new business manager.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Angelica the official date was this Monday.
Okay.
Angelica's been working in an acting capacity since that, but we're very excited to finally have her, as I say, locked and loaded in the position, off and running. And so, but everything's going great, as you'll see from the report.
Yeah, that is great. Congratulations, Angelica.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So as customary, we're going to start, we're looking at the financials for July 31st, 2021 for that month ended. We're going to start with the profit and loss statement. If you look at the first section, that's our revenues. You'll see that the large general service and domestic sales are slightly up. I think that that's due to work from home and businesses being open, back to capacity, but all in all, we're selling about 8% more electricity. So that's good news. And then if we go to our grand total revenue, we're up about 6% in revenue. And then under our expenses, our majority of our costs are our purchase power and fuel and transmission. That's holding steady. We're only at about a little over $33,000 from last year if you add the purchase power and fuel and the transmission costs. So we're going to go over to page 2. And if you look at the bottom, if you take our total expenses less the purchase power costs, our expenses are 2% down. So we are saving more with our operating costs, but we are collecting more revenue. Then we're going to move to page 4, and that's the balance sheet. That gives us a snapshot as of July 31st. So if we look at our two main cash accounts are 128 and 131. That's other special funds and cash. The other special funds is an emergency. So we're looking at we have about $20 million in cash there. And then if we go to page 5, I just wanted to point out our customer accounts receivable and our other accounts receivable. Our collections activities have resumed. Our staff's working with residents and commercial business owners to provide them with any financial assistance or payment plans, really point them in the right direction to help get those past due accounts cleared up. We have seen some good results, and we do plan to do shut-offs until November 15th. So if we...
Angelica, just a quick one. What's the volume of shut-offs that we do, or you're experiencing now?
We're doing about 20 a week or so. Sometimes there's less. We do try to reach out to everyone and get them on a payment plan first. We do have our repeat offenders that we are able to install remote disconnect meters, but the metering staff still has to go out and talk to the resident. Okay. But we understand that it's been a hard year because of COVID, and we're trying to help the customers in any way possible, but still collect our money.
Okay, thank you.
So operationally, one thing we have to deal with, unfortunately, is that people will push us right up to the end. We do, even though they've been offered payment plans and they don't make them, we shut it off in the morning, and then they come home and go make a payment, and then we have to go back and turn it, operationally, we have a cost. The remote disconnect meters are really helping with that, that we talked about. But operational, it's quite a challenge to get, because obviously the customer, as soon as they pay, they expect us right out there turning that back on again.
Sure.
Do we have a charge of turn on, turn off?
We do. We charge a collections fee of $25 per account.
And to turn it back on, 25?
I would have to look into that, but I believe it's just the collections fee.
I think it's just 25.
Collections, yep.
So that's something we can look into.
Yeah, if you don't mind, only because if we're going out there twice, I mean,
Excellent point.
And if you could see, $25 seems low to me. If you can see what other cities and towns may do.
I actually have my collections person looking at that, because she
Okay,
had
good.
brought it to my attention that other communities might charge a little bit.
Yeah, that seems low. Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
So I used to live in Danvers like many years ago,
Sorry,
and
I'm
they
just
were
making
making
my-
like
Uh-huh. So if you take that cash of $20 million I gave you and add the depreciation fund money, our total cash is around $23 million. So as my predecessor would say, we are liquid, profitable, and solvent. So our revenues are good, our cash is good, and our expenses are good. And if there's any questions?
Before questions, Mr. Chairman, I did want to add that we had our staff preliminary meeting with the auditors for the closeout of calendar year 20, and everything looked very good in the initial review of that, and we're planning on having the auditors here for your November meeting for them to give you guys the report.
Okay, thank you.
That report, so the audit's in draft stage right now.
Yes.
Okay. Mike, do you have any questions for Angelica?
Nope, thank you.
Steve?
No, thank you.
Okay, just a couple of quick ones.
Sure.
On the first page, Angelica, account number 450, the unused customer discounts. How has that changed from last month? I don't remember offhand.
So we did, when we looked at, the last financial report I presented to you guys was for April 30th. Our unused customer discounts were at a 67% increase. Right now, we're only at 36%. We started charging back the discount as of June 1st. So customers that aren't paying within the 15-day window are getting that discount recharged to their accounts.
Okay.
Remember we put that we didn't do that during.
Yeah, we
Okay.
weren't doing it during the COVID,
Yep.
which I think was certainly the right thing to do. But we're pretty well past that, you know, the economy's booming again, and we should be doing
Yes.
that. Glad to see you are, and I'm glad to see it's made progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if there's anything really. I made a few notes, but I know you're on a schedule, so.
As always, you can always reach out to Stephanie
Yeah.
or David, and I can provide
Okay,
more detail.
no, that's all I have. Do I hear a motion to accept the, yes, sir, Mark?
Quick question. In regards to the service fee that has been implemented, where is that being carried and what is the amount?
The customer
today?
charge?
Yes, customer
All right,
charge.
I plan to have a discussion on customer charge later. Can we deal with it then?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion to accept the financials as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, financials accepted. That gets us to item number 2, which is the PP and FA for October. Clint, you have the floor.
Good morning, thank you. Thank you, Bill. Good morning, everybody. So today we'll be discussing the recommendation for the October PP and FA charge. Last time we were all together, we're closed out through May, so I'd actually like to go back to June. We'll talk about that, what happened, and then we'll get into July, where we're at the end of July. So starting with the first, the power supply cost factors. Back in June, which is hard to imagine, but we actually had a couple heat waves then, and it was above what we had anticipated. So transmission costs and energy costs were actually about $200,000 north of what we had budgeted for, but the revenue also kind of matched that because people were using the energy. So we actually were very well on track for through June, and returned about $500,000 in June as we had budgeted for originally. July we had budgeted originally to return about $200,000, but as you can see, the power supply costs in July actually came in well below what we had budgeted for. July was, we did not hit the peak that we had anticipated or budgeted for. The transmission costs came in significantly lower than what we had anticipated, to the tune of about $300,000. While energy was also a little bit below 80,000, capacity was right in line, but total brought us in 355,000 south of what we anticipated for July. And that's bringing us to currently through, up to August 1st, we're about 5% below budget for what we had anticipated, which is about $733,000. And moving on to the kilowatt hour sales factors. June, June and July both were very much on track. July, we were within like less than 1% of what we had forecasted. So throughout the year, we're actually tracking very well. We're just about 1% below where we anticipated being. Flip over to page 2. So, as always, the power supply revenue tracks, pretty laterally with kilowatt hour sales. We did, in June, we actually over collected a little bit from what we had budgeted. July, we were very much in line. And right now, we're sitting, just about less than 1% off of what we had budgeted for, which is about 110,000 below what we had anticipated. So with that, we can kind of turn to, actually, let's go to page 3. We'll look at the summary chart. So here's where you can really kind of, if you look to June, you can see how the projected power cost, projected revenues. You can see we had that gap there. That was that was a return that we were planning for. And although the cost and the revenue were both higher, they both shifted pretty much in line with what we had anticipated. However, in July, you can see the blue bar, that was our projected power cost. Was about to the tune about 300,000 higher than what we actually ended up spending through July. So it basically equates to that's 300,000 that we did not return that we had anticipated. So you can see we track through holding the PP&FA charge steady for the remaining 5 months. Or the remaining 3 months, we'll land right about one.
I gotta leave it open.
You gotta leave it open?
Well, you can leave it open just a little, right?
Yeah, you can shut it halfway mark. That'd be
Yeah.
fine. Thank you.
There we go.
Perfect, thank you.
What's that? I can hear it.
So you could ask them to use their inside voice.
Yeah. So we are tracking right now. If we hold the PP&FA charge stable throughout the year, we project that we're going to land right about 1 million in the over/under collection fund. Our target that we established with the PP&FA policy is 2% of the total budgeted annual power cost, which is about would be 515. However, being that we still have August and September, which are big return months, August was a little bit warmer than we had thought. I think that we're still in good track. We still have 3 months, and we can take a look at where we want to begin the year with. So the recommendation would be to hold the PP&FA charge steady for October, being residential 5.28 cents per kilowatt hour, and all others be 5.52. You can see the last chart, just a September residential bill comparison, basically holding, we're in the bottom quartile, $109.80 for the average 750 kilowatt hour bill. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Clint. Mike, do you have any questions for Clint?
No, thanks, Clint.
Steve?
No questions.
Okay, I was gonna just point out that we've already returned over $500,000 to customers from the over/under collection fund, which was at almost 2.5 million.
Correct.
Due to the big cost reduction we got last year. As Clint pointed out, we're on track to return almost another $1 million, right?
Yep.
Because it's just over $1 million in the over/under fund. So we are returning that over collection, although it looks like we'll come in a bit higher, almost double what we set as a goal. But compared to last year, quite an improvement. Okay, that's the only comment I had, Clint. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do I hear a motion to approve the PP&FA rate as proposed by Clint?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you both. All those or any further discussion on the motion on the floor? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Clint.
My pleasure.
Okay, I guess it's the new item 3, which is the engineering report. And it's noted outage management system. There's a footnote there. Jason?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kelly Kabrinsky, one of our senior, I don't know if Mr., if you guys could all just introduce yourselves to Kelly. Have you met everyone, Kelly?
I have not met, I don't think we've met.
No, Steve Horn.
I'm Kelly Brensky. I've worked as an engineer for the electric division for almost 25 years. Nice to meet you.
Nice
Hi,
to meet
Kelly.
you.
Good
I go to her
See
for
you.
historical guidance quite often.
And I think we've met.
We did, I think you guys gave me the tour upstairs
Yes.
at one point, it was great.
Yep, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Kelly.
So,
You're welcome.
just before we get started, we're gonna give a presentation on our OMS system and what you can expect from that, and then I will give a brief update on some project stuff that came up.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
So what you're seeing here is the customer-facing outage web map. So this year, we implemented an outage management system and some upgrades to our GIS. And one of
What's
the
the
driving,
GIS?
this is, it is the GIS and the outage map. So this is the customer-facing map. If you go onto Danvers' webpage, you can find a link that'll bring you to the outage map.
Every customer can go look at this live now.
Okay.
Jason will show you the link there. So one of the driving factors for the outage management system, I'm sure you all know, is that we want to be able to communicate with customers. So right now, this is a simulated outage that we just kind of put in this morning, but Jason can click on it, and you can see that there has been attention to it. We know the number of customers affected, 574. Seems like the cause was found and it was a tree. And we also have an estimated time of restoration as 11:30 a.m. So we have the outage management system and the GIS. What happens is outages can be reported three ways. We have SCADA, where like if a breaker operates, it'll come directly to the outage management system. We have the AMI, if the meters record an outage, they'll get logged into the system, and call takers are able to log calls. We have a data entry. Jason has something there that any call taker in Danvers can have access to this. So we haven't implemented it across the board just yet, but we will. So over DPW at Town Hall or whoever we decide we're gonna have taking calls during an outage will have access to this.
So just like Kelly, select people that answer phone intel, we'll put it right into this. Other people will be directed to call those people. And the idea is just so that they get the right information in and we don't have so many duplications.
Right, so previously we would have somebody just logging it. Maybe if somebody downstairs was taking calls, they'd actually be logging it with a pencil. So it definitely streamlines the call taking. And then the outage management system is smart enough to be able to make predictions based on where the calls come from. And that's the power behind the GIS. The system's electrically modeled so that it's smart enough to know the protection device.
So I just put a call into that call tracker. It's pretty, I don't know if you watched, but it was pretty simple. You can search by address, account number, name. You can go in and create a call. I already created this one, but you can fill in some information and hit create call, and then, as you saw, it immediately came in OMS here.
So it's what it's showing there is it's predicting there's only one call. It's going to predict the meter base. It's going to predict that that one customer is out. If in a few minutes another call comes, because there is a delay in the AMI response, but it will recalculate and it might say, oh, the upstream fuse is out or the transformer. So it will help us minimize outage restoration because we can take a look at this and tell the line truck right away, go to pull whatever to see if the fuse blew. And also during storms, obviously it's going to help us manage the storms, we'll manage crews and.
So if we look at this fuse here, we inputted 3 test calls. See 3 calls coming in. There's 23 customers total on the fuse. You can see which 3 customers called in. And right now, this is say, we inputted these, but if it was the AMI meters, it would do the same thing. It would predict the fuse. It would help us identify where to send the truck, as Kelly mentioned. And then right now, the way this looks is, nobody's touched it. We haven't looked at it. It's in the system. And if we look at the outage map, it's not on there. Because it's Forest Street, which is over here, and you don't see anything. So they'll only show up on the map once we've set eyes on it and we've put it to a confirmed status, then it shows up now.
Do you want to go ahead and confirm it?
Yes. Also,
I'm going to show it.
yeah, so we also have iPads. I think we mentioned it in previous meetings where we've gone out to the crews and the engineers. Our GIS mapping system is an app on here, and the OMS actually sits on top of it, so we have both. So right now you see on my iPad screen, this is our GIS.
This is secret, so.
Can we shut that camera off, Mark?
Yeah. Luckily, it's a little blurry. Blur the camera, Mark, a little bit.
I have a question. Who actually responds to this message? Because you know that you're getting a message, Is there somebody at a desk someplace that actually monitors this?
So during the day when we're here, everybody has, all the engineers have it up on their desktop in the background, and it does give, we've turned off the audible sounds because it can get pretty annoying if we put in calls. But it gives an audible sound. If we see that, we look at it, and then if we have to do something with it, we'll call the line supervisor and send somebody out. Off hours, nobody's actively monitoring the system. We don't have a 24-hour dispatch. So right now what happens is the outage, eventually somebody, they'll call the police. The police, either if it's between 3 and 11, our night guy will first get the call and respond, take a look at it, and if he needs help, he'll page the line guy. If it's after those hours, the police will page our lineman that's on call. He'll come and take a look at it, and once he's seen that it's like a blown fuse, and if he needs an engineering assistance, he will then call the on-call engineer, and then we will start managing the outage like we would during the day. And because we have it on the iPad and we have access to an iPad, you don't have to wait for us to get into the office. We'll kind of show them. The crews have these, so that if they need to look up anything on GIS, they can get information, like I want to know what the transformer bank is. You know, they get all the information they need right here on the side. We can do traces. So I'll trace down, I can trace downstream or upstream, and then give it and what I just did, it says there's 58 customers downstream from where I click, there's 7 transformer banks with 450 kVA, gives us a ton of information. That's all the GIS stuff. It can also help with outages. But if we want to go, as you'll see over here, we have that confirm call, which is the breaker, which you see on the outage map. We got the fuse that's in there right now, that some calls have come in, but we haven't done anything with it. And then we have that 1 meter I just logged to show you that we logged the meter. We have all access right here on our iPad. So if I wanted to, so we had our crew go out, they verified that fuse right here is actually blown, so now we know the customers are out and we know what we have to do. We can, from the iPad, I can take control of the call by assigning a vehicle to it.
This is great you guys are doing this live for us. This is
Yeah.
the actual process that we,
It does, it does take it is like, it's not super fast, but so we just have to,
we'll talk to IT about that.
it's nothing, yeah.
But it's not an X anymore, now it's,
I will, just have to let it, refresh.
so, but while that refreshes, so the cool is, it looks so seamless when these guys are doing it. For the amount of information that's being transferred from your meters at home up to us, to the master meters on our system, all of that coordinating to pop up here and have that be accurate and 100% is just amazing, the work behind it.
Yeah, we had, like for instance, linemen got we have smart devices in the field that report faults. So we'll have a 23 kV device say, oh, there's been a fault somewhere on the line, something's going on. So we always send a truck out to patrol just to see, is there something that's, going to go and have a sustained outage. So when I was on call not too long ago, of, one of those fault, and we could have a couple crews patrolling lines, wasting time, driving back and forth. But I was able to open this and I was like, oh, I see one meter reported, one customer reported out on North Street. So I was able to say, hey, go take a look at this daycare on North Street. And he drove right there immediately and saw that the fuse was blown and that's where the fault was. So it will definitely save a lot of time in that troubleshooting, dispatching crews. It's definitely not perfect. It's not gonna, there's definitely gonna be issues with it that we'll have to work through, but it'll point you in the right direction, speed things up, and we'll be able to display that map for customers to see what's going on.
Kelly knows one of the things we deal with is customers will be out and they want to know, they're calling, why is my power out? And we don't know why the power's out yet because we have to get out there. Mother Nature does amazing things to us.
Right.
And now but this is helping us so much with the troubleshooting, that to speed that up so that now we can say, get out, now we can get the message out that, yep, there's a tree down, there's 452 customers out, and it's gonna be about 3 hours.
And something that I'll struggle with a bit is now we're asked to provide that estimated time of restoration.
Yeah.
And that can be really tough because we're in the office trying to figure out what's going on, and the linemen are still out there assessing.
Right.
So it's like until they get out there, sometimes we don't know the restoration time, and then until they call, and they're like, "We'll be on in 15 minutes."
Yep.
Other times it's significant, and so that'll be something we'll have to adjust to and work on how we want to, you know, how we want to set those times. Like, are we gonna kind of put a buffer on there to, so
Yep.
people aren't getting upset, and so we'll work through that. Jason has some ideas.
Quick question on that point. You've done a lot of work on standards. Would it help to have like just a typical outage? Put in this estimate until you have something, so you don't spend a lot of time
I
on
think
that?
That's
what
one of the
National Grid
ideas
does.
we're thinking of.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
And then we can update it as we get more information.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking, as a starting point, I don't know how long it takes you to come up with an estimate with very limited knowledge. And if you had just a little table of, if it reports a fuse and says, that kind of thing, just a quick lookup, then you can move on to the actual work of working on the restoration.
Right.
Just saves some time.
Yep, that makes sense.
Bill, just a quick one. This all depends on communications, not from the meter itself. That's one indicator, but the communications with the public of when they encounter an outage. Who do they call? Now they call the police department.
So
And is that the method that you're still using?
during the day, they call Davis Electric. At night, they call the police department.
Is there a number for Danvers Electric? That's
They
the
do
key.
call Danvers Electric at night and it gets forwarded to the
Forwarded.
police.
So
So when
we-
there's a storm, we do shut that off.
But we publicize the Davis Electric number all the
Okay,
time.
And it's on the website. I mean,
Yep,
I've
that's right.
looked it up many times.
Everything's on the website, but a lot of people don't use the website.
Danvers
On all our
Electric.
flyers, everywhere, we have the same Davis Electric number, and either we're gonna answer that number, or like Kelly said, it's gonna be forwarded to the police, and they'll answer it, and they're trained to get just the information we need and forward it to us.
The
Thank you.
interesting thing is though, the meters take about maybe 5 to 7 minutes to respond, and typically the customers beat the meters.
Yeah.
Typically we'll get the calls and we know, right, we'll get a mass number of calls before the meters even report, so.
Can we get the numbers sometimes during this presentation of who to call? That's the key.
it's the same number you call for any billing question, any question that you have regarding electric, you call.
And what is that number?
It's right here, 978-774-0005.
Thank
And
you.
if you get the automated system, I believe it says to report an outage press 1.
Plus one.
And then Jason, can you just give out your personal cell number too to the people? That would be good, right?
978-774-0005. And it would spy on your bill with any question you have to call for Danvers Electric, that's the number you call,
Right there.
and you'd access anything, including reporting an outage.
Okay.
We probably should also say that unless you see fire or it's dangerous, the public should not call the public safety emergency number with a power outage as well. Use that number.
You would always use that.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a crew that went out to this call on Forest Street. Let's say they found a squirrel. They told us that, so we can put it in an animal. The fuse blew, which is what it was supposed to do, and say no other equipment got damaged, then the failure would be none. And right now today, it's kind of cloudy, but it's called clear time. And it's just a blown fuse. It's something that doesn't take very long, so we're gonna say we're gonna have it back on in an hour. It's 9 o'clock now, so let's say 10. And then I'm gonna confirm, I got all the information that I know, this is all what I got back from the crew. And then I'm gonna confirm that this outage is there. And I went yellow, so it's gonna confirm, and then, so right now, it's not there, because if you look over down here, it says last refresh was 8:58, the next one's gonna be at 9:03. So every 5 minutes, this web map will update. So right now, even though we've confirmed it, it's in the system as being confirmed, it's not gonna probably show on the map till the next refresh.
So if I'm looking at it on my cell phone, Jason, it'll be the same refresh every 5 minutes? Okay, so I know not to look at my phone every minute, but look at it every 5 minutes.
Every 5
when my power's-
Yeah, I mean, this will tell you right here too when it's the next refresh. So if it's not showing up and you're in between these two times, you just have to wait till that time comes up. So we got 3 minutes before that comes up.
Good opportunity to check out the new website that we tuned up.
Yep, which is, like we said, we have the report outage, here's the link to our outage map, there's the phone number to call. There's all, as you can see, there's a lot more functionality in history, safety, our vegetation management plan, our reliability statistics.
Nice.
So there's, if you haven't been to the website lately, I recommend going, because it's.
Yeah, when did this get updated? It's great.
This was just, so OMS we stood up in August, and then we kind of took a look at the existing the old webpage is very hard to navigate.
Yeah, well,
A little
yeah.
clunky. So we actually worked with Jeff Ely and Angelica to retune the webpage to make it more kind of like a dashboard, like Bill has always kind of talked about.
Yep.
So we incorporated a lot of the recommendations over the years of what we think people want to see, and try to make it just really clear, straightforward. When you go to the website, you know exactly where to go. Like, make it a little more intuitive.
So we can thank Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
The internet king.
I'm far from that. I'm more the dashboard king. Make it really easy and intuitive.
Kinda looks like a dashboard, doesn't it, Ben?
So that's the point.
Also with our, I can also show that with our iPads, it's more than just our GIS and OMS that we have access to. This is sending all our guys, we have an iPads folder where we put all of our some useful information. We have our one-line diagrams that they can look at and access. So this helps troubleshoot in the field as well. I know you mentioned standards, so we do have standards on here. That's all the standards that are on here. The crews can use. You want to go to, I can go to any one, click on it, and so we have access to that as well.
So if you wanna build one of those to hang the spacer cables to, that's how you have to do it.
Good to know.
We have our other construction specs for like conduit and stuff on here, which is up here. If you wanna know what our cable ratings are for certain types of cables, I mean, there's all sorts of like information here, easily accessible. Line crews can look it up, engineers can look it up. So there's just a lot of stuff that the value of these iPads are providing all of our people in the electric division. And I guess it's gonna continue to grow with the policies and procedures on here, and like, it'll just be something that's a living document that everybody can access anywhere.
They use it every day now, it's awesome.
Yes. So that's just a 903.
How are you finding the acceptance by the crews?
They love, well, Jason can talk on the OMS, but as far as the mapping, they love having it on the iPad, because they have had a different technology on their phone for some time, but the iPad this just works so much nicer. It's smooth, big screen. I know talk with Brian, he loves having it. There's like the, if they go out in the field, is the GPS zoom to me button. They just click it, zooms right to where they are, and it'll help them what size the transformer is the transformer overloaded, which customers are connected to the crib, what size fuse. They're very happy with it. As far as the crews and using the OMS, Jason, do you want to talk on that? We're still kind of working out that process, so.
Sorry, hold on 1 second, I didn't go through.
Well, I think Mr. Landers mentioned, it's like our building is, the guys, they wanna get things fixed. And to them, for them to put information into the OMS is another step that we're putting into that, but in this day and age, we feel it's important. We need to get information out.
Right.
And so we're gonna have to work with staff to be accepting of, we need you to take another step to put in there. And you saw, we're making it as easy as possible, click animal, click this, but then, right now, it's like, put the time in, like, guys, put a time in. And we're gonna make sure that, or I am, that we're not critical if they don't get the time exactly right, or if something changes, like, well, it's construction, we don't know. And Kelly will make sure I'm the first one to head off that, so we're not criticizing guys in the field because they put 2 hours and it took 3. We don't wanna have criticism like
They also
that.
have the support of the control authority, so we
Right.
have these iPads at home too, so a lot of times we'll be doing, at least for now, as we're kind of implementing it and feeling out the new processes, we'll be working with them and doing the
Good point.
updates in here.
Yeah.
So, but then, it's kind of evolving, we'll see how we adapt to it.
Just out of curiosity, how long has this project been in the works to get this system into place?
We
When
started
was the Gleam.
Back in 2019, end of 2019, we started
Gleam
working
in
on
the eye.
it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this was envisioned when we bought the new meters.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
So that's
Good
when,
for them, yeah.
when we, the new meters, we knew we wanted to get to this.
so that's like 5 or 6 years ago.
Like 10,
Or 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a very strong GIS, and we've been able to use that for years, and we were able to kind of get by without investing a lot in technology or money. But at this point, the software has come along, and we thought it was a good time to move forward with it. Because during Smart Grid, we did assess some outage management systems, and we worked on some of the other systems, but they weren't there yet. So now the technology kind of kept up. The GIS was in good shape, so we were able to implement. And honestly, the implementation wouldn't have been too bad, but COVID kind of threw us
Sure.
off a bit time-wise.
Before COVID, they had the town, and we were in a partnership with the town's IT department on this. We need IT support behind
Sure.
this, as everybody knows. And IT changed all, they changed that whole department, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So that we had to get through that change, then COVID, then finally we can get it out. So, but we just kept plugging, you guys just kept plugging at it, and we knew we were gonna get there, but
It's very impressive. I guess my last question is the one I asked last meeting. How safe is this from hacking and ransomware and all those kind of things?
so it's protected by cybersecurity, regulated at the FERC level. So by the Department of Public and FERC, I'd like Department of Public Utilities, they set the bar as to how we regulate it. And IT's been good about updating, and we're doing, it seems like every month we're updating our security now. So I think Danvers has come a long way in that.
Great.
We had to do significant improvements to the Danvers system when we did the smart grid.
Mhm.
We had to do our own for Danvers Electric, but now the town is caught up and we're doing it.
I think Danvers might go above and beyond even with some other utilities. They do take it very serious,
Yeah.
IT, because even working with Futura, they're saying that we're kind of locked down a little bit tighter than what they've seen. So it
Oh,
might
I didn't
make-
hear that, that's
It
good.
might make some workarounds hard, but it just, they're keeping that very serious and making sure that it's secure.
That's great news, Kelly. Oh, that's awesome.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead,
No,
Norman.
go ahead.
I was from a budgetary standpoint, does the IT department charge back against us for the time and
Yep.
effort that they've, okay?
And,
Just
just to
fight hard to make sure we get our money's worth out of that.
That's right.
Kelly?
Yeah.
All right, so it went through, and you can see the section of
Oh, there it is.
And you can click, and it says animal, customer selected. I actually didn't put any, you saw me do it, but I had to do it a second time. The first time didn't save. So I didn't put one in, so if there isn't one entered, it'll just be blank. That's actually probably a good show anyways, the difference between the two. But cost found, 22 customers, and then it showed up on the map. Couple other little tidbits about OMS. One is, if say this, we have a big storm come through, we have lots of outages that we're managing, we can assign crews and trucks, and we have a whole, we have everybody in here. So we have all our trucks listed, we have like who's on the truck, and we can assign them to calls, and it'll help us track where everybody is, and it'll try to hopefully manage some of these larger storms, be a little more efficient in that regard.
So if you had a storm, you would update this on who's actually in, who's
Yep.
available.
Yep, and what trucks are on, you'll see some trucks say on duty yes, and some say no.
Mhm.
So we'll update like what's in and what's out, and we can assign them the calls, and actually there's a map on here. Also has a map function inside OMS like you saw on the field portal. And actually you'll see if I zoom in right here, because I assigned this call to the truck, there's a little truck there.
Clint, are you and I gonna be able to look at this, or just these guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool, all right.
So we can do some stuff in the map here as well. And then there are also, any outage, when we close them out, we put in all the information, in as much detail, it goes in, and then, the idea is that we'll generate all of our reliability statistics out of here at some point. This first year where we're doing,
It'll feed
we're
this.
putting in tests, and we're taking tests out, and we're playing with it, so this first year's data is probably not the best one to run through. We still have our other outage database that we've been maintaining, that will get us our statistics. But at some point moving forward, we'll be able to run any statistics out of here, for all our outages.
Great.
That should help with that as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it on all the OMS stuff, and I'll take questions on that before I go to my projects.
Okay. Mike, any questions on OMS?
No, that's great.
Steve?
No questions.
I have no questions. Very impressive, great job. Thank you, Kelly, Jason. Glad to see it coming on board. That looks like a real plus for us. One question. What was the budget for that project, and how do we do against the budget? Do we know offhand?
I do not know off the top of my head.
We'll get that info to you guys.
Yeah,
So it
fine.
was identified in the capital plan on that sheet,
Yeah,
but we'll pull those
sure,
numbers together.
that's fine, it's just
It was,
kind of out
right-
of
I mean,
curiosity.
it was right where it was, they quoted the software and the implementation fees, and it was exactly what we
Yeah.
expected, exactly what they quoted us. I don't
Okay.
remember what it was. And we actually updated our mapping system for viewing in the office. We purchased the iPads, we got them field maps, and we went with the outage management system, so there are a lot of components.
Sure. Okay, thank you, great job.
And then just a quick project update. Our Northland substation project. Right now, our easement and restoration agreement with the property owner are voted for signature, so that's good news. So fingers crossed, we'll get some signatures and.
So that's, I guess, Jason's very modest, and Jason, all you guys, but we're at the signature stage of working with the Liberty Tree Mall to gain an easement next to our existing station there, so that we'll be able to build a new, larger station for the future there. And we've worked out getting that easement from the mall, so, I mean, has everyone's ever dealt with the management company of a mall? I'm sure Michael has, it's unbelievable, so, but it's great that we've got that, we've worked out that arrangement with them, and we gotta say that they've been a good partner, it's just, who do we deal with there, the people
Yeah,
change,
so
all that
that's a
stuff.
large national company
It's-
with.
Yeah.
Just to get the easement is a giant undertaking.
And
I
actually,
I can remember hearing Mark month after month after month saying, we called them again, still don't have any response, don't know who to talk to. This has been a long time coming.
Kelly is actually the engineer assigned to the project, so she can tell you how many conversations have been going on. So she's done a good job getting that through and getting it to a point where hopefully we get some signatures. Like I'm a little superstitious, so until
Oh,
it's
yeah?
dry.
I said at the signature stage, right?
Yeah.
But that's
Until
good
you
news.
can try, it's
Yeah.
still out there.
The conceptual engineering that we were doing ahead of it is complete. And our engineering bid package to get a engineering firm on board for the design is in a review stage. So hopefully, the next few weeks we can put that out to advertisement. And we're also doing some geotechnical surveying of the substation and parking lot area as our due diligence, and that is scheduled to be complete sometime in October, towards the end of October. That's the Northland substation. The Station 42 Patrol House, Jay Gomes is the engineer on that, he's been working hard on that. We're in the process of putting out a request for service for an owner's project manager, OPM, because it is considered a building. And that is to be advertised in the next week, and with the bid opening at the end of October, and we'll go through, and then once we have this owner's project manager on board, they will help guide us through the designer selection process that's required for buildings. So that has been moving on, and the work is going on that as well. Water Street, the reconducting project we've done over there, and I've talked about for several months, we've been on for a little over a year now. We have one cutover left that is scheduled for next week. So all things going well, that project will be complete sometime towards the end of next week. There will be a little bit of cleanup, so maybe in the next couple weeks total, then it'll be done. That project, so that's good. We have our, another 4 kV extension, we'll call the S1 circuit, to help offload Conan Street substation. That design is almost complete, and it's in the Verizon set territory, and all those requests for pole sets have been sent over to Verizon. They've been done for a little over a month, so hopefully something maybe towards the start of the next calendar year, the poles will be starting getting the set, and we can start working on that project.
Can you just describe the project very briefly?
Yes. We have currently we have an S1 circuit. It's a 4 kV circuit out of Cabot Road substation by the high school that runs down to Conan Street. We're going to extend that through Franklin and School and down over to what we call Back Bay to take off some load off of our Conan Street substation, which resides next to the middle school. I think I mentioned in the past that substation is old and there's not a lot of land there, not really something we can replace. So we're extending circuits, creating new circuits to, actually part of the Northland substation is also to offload that substation.
Yeah, and ultimately
So
retire
ultimate
Conan Street.
retirement in that position, so that's,
Yep.
this is just one of the pieces of that project.
Okay, thank you.
At Station 42, we have a disconnect replacement program. A lot of the disconnects there are 1200 amp, and we're gonna replace them all 2000 amp disconnects. So just, the basis for this is it provides a little bit more capacity and flexibility and contingencies. And we've already started on that. We have 3 out of the 10 sets complete, and we're gonna do a couple more this week. So over the next month or so, we'll have that done, and that project will be done. Yes, I can. We have another 4 kV project that I haven't brought up before. We're gonna move in, because some of the projects that we are working on are Verizon, I mentioned Verizon set, so we're waiting on Verizon set poles. We have our L1 4 kV circuit right out at Pond Sub, which is right over here. And we've had several outages in the past year on that circuit. We have the old bundled cable that we're actively trying to replace with spacer cable. So the bundled cable had a couple failures in a row. So we have a project to replace in the conductor called the bundled cable in that circuit and open wire. So that's Holton Street, basically from right in front of Burroughs all the way down to Collins, and then there's the section of Pine between Holton and Adams. We're gonna reconnect with that. That is our set, with the exception of a few poles in Pine, but those don't need to be replaced. So it's a project that we can move up and do right now. So we're actively getting that together, and that'll improve reliability in the area. Asset programs, back in June I mentioned we had a 23 kV porcelain cutout replacement program. These porcelain cutouts are known to crack, and it can be a safety issue. We had identified 24 locations, 17 were complete, that was the same in June. We did have a goal of getting this all done by the end of next calendar year, so we are well on track for that. The remaining 7 are requiring outages, and some of them are going to be require difficult scheduling with the customers, the big commercial customers, so we're actively working on that. But like I said, we have a goal to get it done by the end of next year. Back in June, I talked about we had about 8 load breaks that needed repair that we had identified through operating the system. Those are all complete. That'll be an ongoing thing. As of right now, we have no known load break issues. We have a switchgear replacement program. There are 24 older style switchgear that we've identified that need to be replaced as they continue. They were purchased back in the 80s, and they can start to rust and have one or two leak on us, so we're actively trying to replace those. That is a lot of work, so in the budget, and then I talked about it's a 5 to 6 year program. This year we had scheduled 3, and then we're going to do 4 or 5 a year after that, so 2 out of 3 are still complete. We actually have new stock being shipped that should be coming in the next week or so, so we can try to schedule at least the remaining 1. We might try to get ahead and do 2 more by the end of the year and get ahead. That's where we are on that. And then private area lighting, which is the floodlights. We had 484 that we wanted to replace with LEDs by the end of next calendar year, 22. We had 242 scheduled for this year. We have 169 done. So we're kind of right on track on that. And then lastly, it's not really a project that we're doing, but last week we had our linemen, we had a team compete in the NEPA Linemen's Rodeo. That was the first time in about 20 years we sent a team to compete. The guys did awesome. The team was Nate Frost, Ed Mello, and Pat Crowley. They did very well. They had a lot of fun. They got to work with other teams and other municipal utilities, and I think overall it was a great weather day, and it was just a great thing. And they had a lot of pride, and they did finish second place on the 4 kV pole transfer event, so that was very good.
Congratulations on that, Jason.
Yeah. There was 13 teams competing from various municipal utilities.
Can we, I'm a big proponent of going to conferences and learning and stuff like that. Is that something that we can do every year?
Yes, yep. Previously in the past, I think for the rodeo, it was more, the guys have to want to do it. Because some of the guys, I think they're saving it to be able to do the work here, and they don't want to, there's always a risk for injury, but some people might take that risk, not take that risk. So right now we got some guys that actually want to do it. So we're going to allow them to do it. It was a rodeo, and then the conference, the engineering operations conference was right after it. So the rodeo was on Tuesday, the engineering operations conference was Wednesday, Thursday.
Yep.
And we sent 8 or 9 people to the conference.
Sure.
We sent everybody that we basically could. We had to obviously give some feedback. So we were well attended.
Good.
And we're going to continue to try to do that and open it up to everybody. And
I think it's good for them, good for us when they're attending those.
And you can see, Steve, from the tone from the supervisors and the line supervisor is that this is important. Participating in this is in the best interest, and we're not too busy to go do there. We can schedule the work so that we can get guys up there and encourage it.
Good.
we flipped over that way. We're very excited about it.
Are we planning any employee appreciation recognition events this year? And that certainly sounds like something that could be included in a recognition and appreciation event.
So we've already done like the social media posts on the guys and given them that. They're, I'm not sure how much they're kind of, how much they noticed, they really don't. One of the guys didn't even want to be in the picture, but, we have started talking about, our electric open house and what we're gonna do for that, and it's up in the air right now. We're working with town hall on just what we should do as far as recognition and that in progress.
Yeah, certainly complicated by COVID.
Yep,
Again.
yes, exactly.
I'm assuming that I know we got the package of the monies that are available through the CARES Act and some of those other stuff. I know one of those components is I don't know what they described it as, a bonus or whatever it is. I'm assuming that our people are also in line to get that bonus.
So the town manager gave a report to the Board of Selectmen on that bonus money, and they've chosen to do police, fire, and a select group of DPW guys, which was 7 custodians. Those people, staff members, got a bonus. Nobody from Danvers Electric got that.
Okay. Maybe we can
Or
think
water
about,
and sewer.
maybe,
Or water sewer, correct.
I mean, I would have absolutely no problem with us contemplating in the next fiscal year a payment out of our money for
Okay.
our people to do that. It's not a huge amount,
We'll check into that.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a little disappointing that they
yeah.
didn't recognize the public works.
Yeah, I know that there is a complication in that the town manager really tries to be consistent
Yeah.
across the whole
No, I
town.
understand.
So we have a lot of oversight in trying to do.
Yep, no, it's a
Events.
recommendation on our
Yeah.
part, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jason.
You just-
Anything else? Any further questions for Jason? Steve?
No?
No. Great report. Thank you. Great job with the outage system, outage management system.
It seems like it's, what you guys showed me that time is now,
Yes.
it's amazing.
Yep, we've come a long way since.
Yeah. Can remember being so impressed in what that was when we looked at it a couple of years ago. Now to have it on an iPad is
Yeah.
remarkable.
Yeah, and everybody's got them.
Yeah.
And presumably well-trained, and, you know, you said that they seem to be getting quite comfortable with it, like that, so that's good. Okay, no further questions for Jason. We'll move on to the new item number 4, which is receive public comments.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Can we just approve because I'm gonna can we change it once again and just approve the minutes from
Oh, sure.
the last one? I'll vote on that.
Okay. The minutes have been distributed. I assume the board members have had a chance to review them. Before we get to a motion, are there any suggested changes or comments?
I don't.
Okay, Steve?
I'm fine with the minutes, yes.
The only comment I had, Stephanie, is on the last page where the next meeting was scheduled for the 14th, then it's the 28th now. Do we need to change that, or
No,
that
because
was
that's what we
accurate
said
at the
at
time?
that date, yeah.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Thank you both. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mike.
Let's see it.
Don't trip.
Okay.
Very
And
nimble. There we go.
now we'll move to receive public comments. Any public comments?
Absolutely.
Yes. Would you please introduce yourself?
I am Mark Zubarek, and I've been coming to these meetings for a long time, and I am producing this video.
For you guys, so you can get out to the public, see what's going on.
One of the public comments that I have is, I have not had the opportunity to attend the last meeting or the previous one because I have been busy with other videos that I've been producing. The one question that as the public in this case, I have raised written questions to the Municipal Light Board Director in regards to the consultant and the individual residential customer fees that were implemented, and I understand you had your discussions and I was not able to attend. But I asked those questions in writing over 5 months ago. Still haven't received a reply in regards to the RFP that was issued for that purpose, the results of the contract after the contract was awarded, and how were the minutes for those meetings, because nobody was able to attend those.
Okay, Mark, can I ask you a clarifying question?
Sure.
You mentioned you sent this request to the Municipal Light Board Director.
Correct.
I don't recall receiving it.
Well,
who did
you're
you send
not
it
the
to?
director, David is.
Okay, he's
so-
the DPW Director, that's why I'm confused.
Well, that depends on which day you're at. So, you know the drill. But the thing is that I raised those questions 4 or 5 months ago. And I think the public deserves to know what the process was and how it was arrived at. And I'd like to get a copy of the minutes of those meetings. Customer fee was questioned and no reply for the town municipal light company was given to the Board of, even the Board of Selectmen. They raised the question of why it was imposed. And I, as an investigative reporter, I wanted to get to the bottom and see where that came from. Communications with customers is still lacking, and this is one of the things that we'll be talking about during the DPU review of the DPU decision. Public meetings are not announced except on the town-wide, calendar that's there. And I think, when you raise rates or you impose fees, those should be announced in the newspapers just like we used to. So the thing is, yes, we have a lack of attendance at these meetings, but the lack of attendance is not intentional because some people don't even know about the meetings. So that's my public comments that I want to present. However, I'd like to reserve a right to communicate with the Municipal Light Board in regard to the DPU results. So thank you very much.
I accept your reservation for when we get to that discussion.
Thank you.
David, do you want to comment on this request in writing about sending copies of the information?
So I'm gonna review that. It was my understanding that those comments had been responded to, so I need to double check and see.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Mark. And
I guess,
sir?
the only other comment is that we did have a thorough discussion with the the select board recently about the customer charge, the philosophy behind it, the calculations that went into it, and we did review with them the information that was done to advertise it and talked about possible ways to do more advertising next time we do a rate change.
Yeah, I
So
actually
we had that
plan.
workshop with them, and I think Mr. Hayes was there.
Yeah, I actually plan, when we get the board members' comments, to have a discussion on that. So that will be further amplified later, Mark.
Thank you very much. The only alternative that there is a FOIA request, and I don't want to
Is it
go
what
through that.
request? Oh, FOIA, okay, freedom of
Freedom
information.
of information.
Okay, I just didn't
And
catch
I
it.
don't want to go through that.
Fine, okay.
You don't want to go through that either.
Sir, would you introduce yourself,
Bill
please?
Bradstreet, town meeting member, precinct 1. I don't know if this is the proper.
I'm sorry, could you say it again? I didn't quite catch it over the mask.
Bill Bradstreet,
Okay, thank you.
town meeting member, precinct 1. I asked the select board at the last meeting, it mimics what Mark has said, I believe. It's unfortunate that there wasn't a letter of explanation sent with the electric bill, the water and sewer bill, explaining how this charge came up, the discussion, and also how the cost was determined. I think it's unfortunate that at the time this was implemented, the individual rate payers weren't told why. I don't know how else to put it, I think it's very disappointing that the bills change, some people don't notice it if they just pay the bill, that there wasn't a letter of explanation, either 1 or 2 pages, whatever it takes, submitted or put with each bill. Everybody that's a rate payer should have received some kind of information. Obviously, putting it in the newspaper is one thing, a lot of people don't buy the fake newspapers.
Yep.
Certainly, if you supply this information with the rate payers, it might have been very helpful. So there wouldn't be a lot of discussion about this.
All right, thank you, Bill. Let me ask you, are you gonna be able to stay to the end of the meeting?
Do you want me to leave?
No.
No, I can stay.
I plan to have a communication discussion toward the end of the meeting when we get to the board members'
I can
comments.
stay.
So if you can
I'm
stay.
retired, I can stay.
Me too. Okay. I'd like to reserve, you
No,
make your
that's fine.
point, you'll get another chance when we have the communication discussion.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and thank you for your comments. Okay, we're through those. DPU report is next.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so we had it on the report, on the agenda of the 2020 DPU report, which is completed by staff. Everything is in line with, very similar to last year. Nothing really jumps out on the board. It's a recap of our financials and our sales that we submit to them, just to summarize everything that happened in 2020. The financial data comes right out of our general ledger that we use to generate the budget.
Okay. Yeah, this is a huge document, 81 pages. And we, signed by the town manager, the DPW director, and then the 3 members of the Municipal Light Board.
So we do customarily have this board just take a vote to approve it.
Okay, that was gonna be the next question, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the return of the Municipal Light Department of the Town of Danvers to the Department of Public Utilities?
Make a motion to approve?
I will, thank you, Steve. I will second that motion. Any discussion on the motion or the report itself?
Yes,
Hearing-
Bill,
Mark?
if I may. That report is done annually, correct?
Yes.
As the public has access to that report?
You would put it on the website.
Yeah, it's on the
Well,
website.
is there a copy available for the general public that can be reviewed here, or?
So we can either provide a copy of it to the public after it's, signed and submitted, and we post on the website. That's how we've been asked to give to the public up there. But yeah, in our DPW office, we have copies, once it's signed and approved.
Are there any significant changes from last year's report? That's the point I'm trying to make, because the public doesn't know.
No, like I said, yeah, there's no big changes that jump out from last year. Everything's the same.
Yeah, the department's been pretty stable in the 4 years I've been on the board. Bill, you have a comment?
Another question, some of us are not computer literate. They'd like to see, as Mr. Zurich said, a paper copy in some accessible location, so someone, if they had the time, could wade through the report.
Is there any?
It's available in my office, in the Public Works office.
Okay, and can that information be given out somehow?
Yep.
Not necessarily on a computer?
Yeah.
What are you looking, are you asking for it to
Just-
be mailed?
No. The
So
comment was made,
you could go to
it's
David's-
many pages.
Yeah, 81.
I don't want copies made and wasting postage.
Yes.
Just want a location identified where if someone chose to, they could go,
Yeah.
get a copy, and take whatever time it took to read through or purview this report. I don't want the town spending extra money
Yeah,
making use
So I
of
guess
those copies.
the bottom line is that any public document that someone is looking for a copy for from Danvers Electric, if they either visit the Public Works office in Town Hall or call that office, staff there can help get that copy to anybody. Anything, whether it's a DPU report or something else that people looking to get a copy of, all they have to do is stop by or contact that office. We have 2 staff people there that are very knowledgeable, can help any resident in town get that stuff at any time.
Thank you for that information.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've got a motion on the floor to accept this, and hearing no further discussion, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of accepting the DPU report as submitted? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, that was item 6. Item 7, the utility director will provide an update to the board on various items of interest.
The biggest news obviously is getting Angelica on board. We are working through a number of line crew positions, working on those, hiring those through. It's going well. Jason and Clint are pushing things through. Excellent to keep our crews there. In your packet, you do have the cybersecurity memo from IT that you guys requested. That's there for you guys. The Smith School solar project, Clint and Jeff Ellie and other staff have made significant strides on that one. We're nearing a decision point on the Smith, Highland, and high school solar arrays. So right now we're planning to have solar arrays on all 3 schools. We're getting
Say that again, the Highland School?
Highland School, Smith School, and possibly the high school.
Wow.
We've had a different group look at the high school, different design. The previous one, it just was not gonna be cost effective to do it
Yeah.
due to
right.
other stuff as well, so that's why I said hopefully. I'm
Can I
the
just
skeptical
ask
one on that one.
Do we understand what's different? Because we had thought,
Not yet.
okay,
Work.
way back when, we didn't think that it was structurally set up to handle that
Well,
additional load.
it's structurally set up, it's the amount of other devices and changes in elevation and other protrusions that are up there.
Okay,
Even though it's a giant building, the amount of flat free space that we had was surprisingly small.
okay.
Skylights and so that's what, so
Okay,
right now,
so-
we have new engineers and people that are saying, hey, we think it's possible. I'm the skeptical one here.
Okay.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Quick question, Bill, and a response. What about photovoltaic? Similar to what Beverly has installed on their embankment over there? Because I know that Stone Webster built that back in the 90s or early 80s.
Yeah, well, that's PV panels, that's what we're
Yeah.
doing. That's what I'm talking, I call them solar panels, but they're PVs.
No, those are 2 separate things. There's solar panels and there are the photovoltaic panels which convert sunlight into electricity.
Well,
So-
so we're looking at photovoltaic panels.
Okay, great.
So so there's a possibility for the high school. We're at a decision-making point of whether or not to purchase and own the panels or enter into a power purchase agreement where another company comes in and will supply those, and they'll maintain them, and eventually we would own them. So there's some latest incentives, both from the federal government and and how we can do things in the capacity market to at least get it close and maybe even more cost effective to do a purchase power agreement.
Okay.
A number of months ago, we were like, the initial numbers were like, no way, it's better to purchase and own. How we look at the taxes, who can get the tax credits, different things, now it's close. So we're getting close to a final analysis on this, and we're gonna make a decision on whether or not it's a PPA or we purchase and own the panels.
Okay.
So actually, the same companies can install them, no matter which way we do it. We would still do an RFP/bid. Steve?
Okay.
When do you expect to get responses from?
So we're gonna make a decision here before the end of the year, but we're thinking next summer to be under construction for those.
Okay.
That's our plan, and that was, in our big capital plan, it was kind of planned, get Smith School done and behind us, and then come in and do the panels, I gotta get the contractor out of there and do that. Secondly, on the landfill project, the landfill PV panel project, We have finally got the first letter of approval from the DEP to do the soil filling project. It's been quite a quite a process, and I gotta credit Stephen King and the other engineers working on that, push DEP, and frankly, the DEP, when they're allowed to review something for 45 days, they take every single day before they get back to you, and we've had to go through that process. Actually, the permit will be an administrative consent order to the town on, filling that. We haven't seen a draft of that consent order yet. That's expected shortly, and we'll get that. Hold on one second, Mr. Bessie. And what it was planned will be a 2-year process to fill the dirt, to create the level, to create the area, and then once that 2 years is up, then we'll come in right at the end of that 2 years, and have panels installed.
Do we have an estimate of when that 2 years starts?
So if we can get approval from the DEP, like we think this winter, we believe we can go out to bid and design and be ready to take soils next summer.
Okay,
That's what we're shooting for.
so 2024 to complete filling it.
20 to 24 to complete, yep.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, I attended the meeting, the public meeting you had on that.
Yep.
And one thing that struck me was a lot of that landfill area is flat to hilly, and then the area that we're planning to use, is the only really large area, requires 2 years worth of, if I recall, 45 dump trucks a day to fill it. Why was it closed when it was a big gully or valley? What drove closing?
The solid waste regulations. So back on the operation plan of how they could stack the solid waste and how it could be, at that time, they couldn't make it into one. It was 2 different landfill cells.
Oh, really?
So that's why they were closed separately.
Okay. But one was allowed to be hills and the other one was a
Well, it's like
valley.
2 hills next to each other.
Yeah,
And that's how the operational permit for the landfill went, how they stacked up the trash.
yeah.
And there's some
Okay.
geographical things underneath the ground that, why they did that, where the groundwater flows and such, but
Oh,
it was all part of the operational plan.
Just curiosity, because I attended that and I saw, it's a big open area and it's great, makes a great site, but then it's gonna take 2 years to fill it. And I was like, why isn't it filled with trash, Okay, just out of curiosity.
And so now it is gonna be filled with clean soil that will generate revenue.
Yeah,
This is, the town will generate revenue from that.
yeah, I remember that as dump trucks come in, they have to pay a fee to be able to dump there.
Correct.
So it's gonna be clean and we get paid for it.
Correct.
So. Bill?
Bill Bradstreet, town meeting member, precinct 1. The former town manager, I don't know how many years back, there was an article in the paper that some community had gotten grant money to fill and put up these solar panels. And again, I'm not sure how, because I started talking to you, David, a long time ago about this. Obviously, there are issues with it. Is there any grant money out there to continue this when I brought it to your attention and to the former town manager?
So in this situation, the path we're going down is it revenue generating. We're gonna get paid for the soil. So there's no grant that would tie in a project where we're gonna be paid for the soil coming in.
Maybe just the construction or setup of the panels?
Not that everything that I've been told to date is there's no grant that would apply to this project.
Okay.
Nor has there ever been for our type of project.
You talked about the 2 schools for the panels. How many municipal buildings does the town own? There are other schools that could accommodate not necessarily massive setups, but smaller setups that would go into this project. I mean, if you got 5 as opposed to 1, 5 smaller that would equal or maybe exceed the 1, would it be cost effective or are they even being considered?
So staff and the consultant looked at all the town buildings, and the most cost-effective approach was to put these 3 buildings together. If we could do Highland, Smith, and the high school together, that was the best bang for the buck right there. On the smaller buildings, when we get to smaller panels, the projects are smaller, they become less cost-effective. We'd really like to wait for another generation of PV panels that's less expensive on those.
So,
Right now, it's not cost effective.
so smaller would provide the power to the particular town building.
But it would end up costing more than a lot more than what the
That's
power
up
we're
front-
buying
That's up
is.
front, but in the long run.
Yeah,
Remember when you were talking in the past about the roof at the Highland School? I brought it up then, if you're gonna do the roof over, that would be the ideal time to add the solar panels. I don't remember how that ended up.
right, but what we need to do is combine it with the other two projects. So we have one contractor coming in doing 3 schools, we're buying a larger number, it's all about economy of scale in the finances of it. Because at the end of the day, we end up with a price per kilowatt for whatever that power is. And if we went out and tried to put a couple solar panels on, on the top of this building right now, we'd be paying a lot more per kilowatt than any other of our big power contracts for renewables are doing.
Now, does that rate decrease over time, stay steady, or does it lower? When you're feeding this power into the massive grid that we purchase power from.
So it's a 25-year plan, and so the economics have been figured out for 25 years. Yes, rates change and everything changes, but we figured it out for a 25-year financial plan.
So I'm not gonna be around to have to worry about this then.
Well, unless something happens, they're all designed to last 25 years,
I'm not.
so. And perhaps, I don't know, longer, but, obviously, their effectiveness, like, decreases over time too, a lot of things, all of that's figured in the 25-year financial plan.
Okay.
That's a short, Clint could give us a much more complicated answer on the costs and how it all, but just to know that, the rates, the numbers they change for 25 years, it's all been figured in.
Would you like the complicated answer?
No.
You're looking over at me. Clint was ready.
I'm ready.
At my age, no.
Okay.
Okay.
I got 10 pages backing up my cover sheet right here. But,
Thank you.
okay, solar, yeah, so plugging ahead on the solar, thanks for mentioning the NEPA rodeo. Citizens Academy, last week there was a change in schedule, and Danvers Electric and Danvers Civil Engineering stepped up and took a slot in the Citizens Academy and got just through the roof rave reviews on everything they presented. So kudos to staff on, there's 20 people in the Citizens Academy that are all extremely engaged. They asked a lot of questions and it just went very well. So Clint and everybody else that worked on that, it went great. So we did that. So we're still working on what we want to do for Public Power Week, where we need to get some stuff in the town. It's not going to have its normal open house. And then the last thing is we did get the response from the DPU on their investigation of issues that were brought to their attention. The good news of that is that everything that Danvers Electric has done that they looked at was all done in accordance with Chapter 164. That's the good news. They had a couple issues on the accounting, how things were accounted for in our books that they've worked with Peter on, and most of it have already been done as far as how we put things, categorize them in our ledger. They're cautious about, which expenses go above the line, below the line in our ledger. Also, they talk about how we calculate the return on the plant. So, obviously everyone knows we're limited to an 8% return on the cost of the plant. That's what we're allowed, for profit. And then the question is, does that get done on the net plant, the gross plant, the cost of plant? How is that done? So that's, either way is fine with us. We're working with them and we'll do it in accordance with, the way they recommend it on gross plant. Municipal electrics across the state, some do it on gross plant, some do it on net. They do it both ways. They caution us that, payments to the town, like our payment in lieu of taxes, is an acceptable thing. It's standard in the industry, And obviously, we can only make it from Danvers Electric when there is sufficient, what they call below-the-line earnings, in accordance with that, so which we've done. So a long process to get them. I can honestly say they did a very thorough review, but we were glad that they did that. The other thing, and yeah, and as they, you can look at the report, they went through each issue on stuff that was brought to their attention, and found we're all in accordance with Chapter 164.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Steve, any questions, comments on the DPU investigation report?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, actually, I have a couple, David.
Mhm.
I went through it rather thoroughly after Stephanie got the package off. And when I look at something, I kind of like to take a step back, kind of look at the overall. Overall, they mentioned 10 issues in the report. 6 of them were just fine. One suggestion they had was review our practices on pilot, but the pilot discussion was found without merit. So there was no criticism of us, or there was no finding against us, but that suggested we review our practices. There was one that said, with obsolete equipment, just keep it on the books until it's retired. Our practice has been to remove the plant when it's fully depreciated, so it doesn't get depreciated anymore. Some utilities do it that way, some do it, keep it on the books until it's retired or sold or scrapped. Again, that kind of takes, that was a direction, keep it on the books until it's retired, sold, or scrapped, which I think is a minor finding. And then apparently we changed our depreciation rate twice. We increased it once and then from 3 to 5% and then went back 5 to 3. We forgot to file tariffs with the DPU. And they just said their direction was seek approval for future. And we filed tariffs. We're back doing that routinely, but this pointed out that we missed a couple, so, which in the report was described as an oversight. So by and large, I think what I took from this is we had some very, very minor findings, and you know, all in all, it was an exercise that took almost 3 years. And I have no idea how much money or man hours, people hours were spent on this, but we basically got a 99%, in my opinion, clean bill of health. The one issue that they emphasized at the end is communication. We've heard a bit about that, and at the end, I'd like to have a discussion on communication. So overall, they suggest we're generally in compliance, but they did suggest review a couple of things which are been corrected. I think by and large is a good report for us. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I may comment on that, please?
You may.
I would like to just read...
Briefly, excuse me, briefly.
Well, it's just one long paragraph here from the
Okay.
DPU, basically the conclusion.
Which page?
Conclusion, page 20.
Okay.
All the items that have been presented to the DPU were basically, they said that they were within the law.
Yep.
Okay? Which is fine. Based on the department's review of record in this proceeding, and to those otherwise directed above, the department finds that Danvers Electric is in general compliance with the requirements of Chapter 164, Section 56 and 58. In reaching this conclusion, we note that several deficiencies have been identified regarding the accounting treatment of fully depreciated plant and depreciation funds for street and intersection projects. A failure to seek department approval of depreciation rate changes. while Danvers Electric has acknowledged a number of the shortcomings and has implemented corrective action, ignorance of these statutes does not constitute an excuse for noncompliance. They have given us examples of previous cases. A utilities management has a fiduciary duty to comply with all applicable statutes and regulations. The department has previously directed companies to review their statutory duties so that violations will not be repeated. While the department does not consider Danvers Electric errors to rise to the level of requiring similar directive, here Danvers Electric may find a review relevant to statutes to be beneficial. That is the key statement in there. And the thing that we need to do is understand what has really transpired. All the funds that have been spent by Danvers Electric are basically payments to the town of Danvers. So the thing is, we have a pilot program that we have to recalculate, but in the long run, all of the payments for the intersections, for the loans, for the retirement fund payments, and those have been done to advance the town of Danvers taxpayers, basically. So what we have done is all those payments are in lieu of taxes, basically donated by the ratepayers of this town. And I'll just go back to my my original statement when this all started, is that I was told at the time when I was on the Board of Selectmen, and they wanted to increase or spend $76,000 for a light pole with some floodlights. And I objected to that at the time. However, I was told, don't worry about it, it's just peanuts that is being transferred over to the ratepayers, so it's instead of raising the tax rate. So, I think you're right. This whole thing has come up because of communications, for one thing, and fair and equal treatment of the taxpayers and the ratepayers. So thank you, Bill. I appreciate your comments.
Okay, I'd just like to add that somewhere in there, I was just looking for it while you were making your point, is that any profits that the Danvers Electric Division makes are essentially owned by the town of Danvers. While your point is to some extent valid, the fact is, if we didn't do a transfer in that way, money can still be transferred to the town.
Oh, absolutely, but let's be right on the table. I mean, let's show our cards. And
Okay,
the thing is that it wasn't done that way.
I'm not sure I agree with that statement.
That's okay.
All procedures of budgeting and everything else, approvals, all the way through the whole town's management system were done on all of these items. So, okay, let's move on. Okay, DPU report we just did, and utility director, that was the other report, okay. David, is that it for you?
That's it, sir.
Okay. We're up to board members' closing comments, and we seem to be short board members.
Yeah, he had to run to the men's room, so you might as well start, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, this will be excruciating for a couple of reasons. We haven't had a meeting for 3 months because we don't meet in July and August typically. So I have a number of comments. Okay. David, quickly, where are we on the financial software? That project has been around for a while, it's been backburnered for a while in COVID. Where are we with that now?
Staff on the engineering side of the street have looked at vendors, have interviewed vendors,
Okay.
and preparing that side.
Okay.
On the business side of the street, because of the change in business manager,
Okay.
our new business manager's been part of those discussions, and now we need to get her involved at a higher level on that financial software.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's about third on our priority list right now.
Okay.
So we have other software updates and things we have to do that are 100% critical on that. So it's about third down her priority list to get her back into it on the business side. So
Okay.
Clint and Jason and myself, we've been working to get the engineering, to get those guys pushing the project along as much as possible,
Okay.
knowing we have to be a little patient in bringing the business side over to
Is
do
it
that.
possible to do a two-phase implementation?
We're talking
ultimately?
about that. But as we talk about that, we are bringing in business more and more, and Angelica's like very excited about getting things changed. It's just she's probably gonna get into it quicker than we thought,
Okay,
but
good.
we're gonna get there. So,
Okay.
we know we wanna do it as far as, to get our work orders, to get our inventory where we want it to be, all that stuff, we wanna go there. It's a matter of, what can give so we can get it done.
Okay,
So-
yeah, as you know, I'm very interested in that. I
Yep.
really believe strongly that that needs to be happening. Our ability to do our project management stuff is impacted by the old systems, and of course, we look at the financials, and, these are pretty Rube Goldberg, and as I've mentioned before, we go through a big budgeting exercise and set a budget for the year, but then in our reviews here, we look at last year's results, not this year's budget. And so I always look at that as.
What do you mean we look at that?
We compare the current
Current year to last year?
to
Oh,
last year.
okay.
Not to the current year budget, which I always.
Oh, I see,
I
okay.
always look at it as driving down the road, looking in the rearview mirror, as opposed to looking at a forward-looking budget. That's why I'm so hard on this.
At what percentage of the, okay.
We're comparing to last year instead of comparing, because budgets take into account what we think is gonna happen this year, what events we expect, that sort of thing.
So
And
as
it's
of,
a big budgeting exercise that you guys go through, and then to an extent, for the MLB, we don't even look at it.
so the good news, as of yesterday, I have a business manager.
Congratulations.
So
And the good
now
one
I
for
can
what-
get a plan together on how we're gonna do the business side aspect of the financial plan with our
Yeah.
new business manager.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize, I think that's really.
It absolutely is.
That's a good point, Bill.
Okay, let's see. Can we plan to have maybe a couple of packages of the meeting materials available for each meeting for members of the public who show up?
I
We did.
get it. You did today.
Did you?
Yes,
You
yes,
get
I
it?
did.
You did?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I had asked a while ago that could we get the Public Power magazine for the MLB members? And I've gotten 2 or 3 episodes now.
Yeah, I have, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're in the industry, so you,
Correct.
yeah, so I assume you're reading it and understand it.
Yep, for the most part.
Yeah. I think it's really valuable for us as members of the Municipal Light Board to get this. I've been reading it thoroughly, I really enjoy it. And I'm going to talk some issues, and, this is part of where I'm getting the ideas from. So I want to thank you guys for doing it. I think it's valuable for us to have it. Okay. You mentioned Public Power Week, the investigation is done. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about was, almost a month ago now, David and I attended the Northeast Public Power Association Conference in Portland, Maine. And Jason attended as representative of the Citizens Advisory Board in Reading. So what I wanted to do was have a brief discussion, and it's kind of really more ask some questions of David and the crew, and I thought I had my notes here. Maybe this is it. Anyway, essentially, the questions amount to, you know, what was discussed there, what did we learn, what do we think we need to do differently in Danvers, and what actions or what projects are we going to start to think about doing that line up with that. Some of the things that came to my mind is visiting other boards. Jason has the advantage of going to the Reading one. I went to Peabody's meeting last week. I made a point of meeting people from other towns there, and I've sent out emails, and I expect to get invitations to sit on other boards just to learn what they're doing and see if we can benefit from that. Topics that came up at the conference were small nuclear plants that include a set of 12 small reactors individually, each one its own system, which provides a nuclear plant that was designed to be built mostly underground, could actually withstand a jumbo jet crashing into it and not destroy it or cause leakage. Great flexibility in that they're designed such that you can just dump steam, and so it can respond to load, which nukes can't do very well today, the mega nuclear plants. And they're quite flexible, and they could be used to produce hydrogen. And hydrogen, looking forward, dealing with climate change, looks like it's going to be part of the solution. And, I asked a guy who talked about hydrogen, you know, I have a visceral reaction when you talk about hydrogen, remembering the Hindenburg or hearing of the Hindenburg. And he produced some numbers, and I don't remember it offhand, but it was something like 11 billion tons of hydrogen were produced and used last year around the world. And I haven't heard of a single hydrogen accident. So apparently it's gotten a whole lot safer. So I just wanted to bring it up as, you know, are you guys, as you look ahead, thinking about that? Are you bringing it up with E&E and through Northeast Public Power? You know, where do we fit in there? Obviously, I asked the question, you know, what would a small nuclear plant cost? $4 to $5 billion. That's not quite in our range. So, but it's something we might want to look at being supportive of. Couple of things that really struck me, the way things are going with climate change and the grid being stretched, the flexibility of the grid to deal with major weather events is at risk, and we should be planning for rotating outages, which we've seen in California already. So I was just wanted to suggest we get that into our planning. Also, they really emphasized that to deal with climate change, to get to where we need to be by 2050, with interim where we need to be by 2035, talked about 4 major segments: electricity, transportation, buildings, and I forget the 4th one. Industry. Of those 3, the progress chart goes like this. The electrical industry progress so far is kind of like this. Not quite there, but well along. The other 3 are going like this. Nothing's happening. Just in the last day or 2, there's been an article, recently been articles in the Globe about trying to improve transportation. We're hearing more about electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. It could be electric. I read an article that the state of Massachusetts has a goal that by 2030 we will have converted 1 million homes to electric heat pumps. That was set in 2020. 10-year plan, 1 million homes, 100,000 a year. Last year, in Massachusetts. Against that 100,000 home goal, 485 homes were converted to electric heat pumps. So we're missed it by that much. And so that brings to me the question, and it was brought up in the conference, what do the utilities need to be doing to be ready to handle the increased load that is going to come with electric vehicles becoming the standard and home heating via heat pumps becoming the standard? And they talked about increasing our capacity of our distribution system. They also talked about partnering with the people who are putting in solar on their rooftop, people who buy electric vehicles, that if we have a storm and have an outage, perhaps if we partner with these people who own the electric vehicles and have solar panels on their roof, if they have electric battery storage, we could have them feed into the grid during an outage. So these are kind of things that, and this is characterized as a public utility like we are, instead of contracting with 8 or 10 large producers of electricity, we're now looking to partner with thousands of people who have an electric vehicle or solar panels on their roof. So it's a totally different paradigm for doing business to deal with things that we know are going to happen. And so I just wanted to bring this up so that you guys can start to talk about it and get it into your discussions about how do we need to change to deal with what we know is coming. One way that struck me is back early on in my tenure here, there was a study done about converting our distribution system from 5,000 kilowatts. I think I put that in the email. And back then, it said no, from 5 to 13 for distribution within the town. And back then, when the study was done, it said no, the 5 was adequate. But given what we're heading toward in terms of more electric vehicles, home heating with electric heat pumps, and I just had a quote this last week from an electrician, because I bought an electric vehicle. He tells me he is installing a lot of home chargers for electric vehicles. You know, that's coming at us. Should we relook at the 13,000 volt as an option? Just a question, I don't expect an answer. Anyway, this is what I take away from the conference, that, you know, change is coming, it's coming fast and hard, and we need to be ready for that, we need to be thinking about it. And I've been impressed with how forward-looking we are, and how much we do, but maybe we need to do more. So, anyway, that's what I took away from the conference. And then one other thing was they have on-demand learning, which I think I'm gonna try to start doing some of these. Some of them, a lot of them are free, so for us board members, it might be a chance to get more knowledgeable about the industry. But I was really grateful for the opportunity to go. I think I learned a lot. I met a lot of people from different towns around that I want to go to their meetings and see what we can do differently that they do that's really good. And that's that.
So Bill and I had planned on, with Jason to kind of download a little bit. That didn't happen yet for a number of reasons, but a couple that, I'm glad that you're a little more upbeat than we take away the whole, unless we do something about the climate, we're all gonna burn up by 2045, I think, is what the message they kept proceeding. I did wanna mention, the theme at many of the sessions when they talked about rates is on our customer charge issue.
That's in my communication pitch.
Okay, so it's like across the industry with all of these changes, whether we're doing, net metering, whether people are producing their own power, whether we're buying the battery power back, all those things are changing the traditional model of just buy power and sell it to customers for X amount of kilowatt. Regardless of all those different things, we still have costs to operate the grid. We have those costs, they're operational costs.
Yep.
And The customer charge is intended to recover those costs. And the industry is like heading towards a real customer charge, which we know ours is $23.20 right now. And the industry is out there pushing towards, if Kelly Kabrinsky's home costs us $23.20, then she needs to pay $23.20 up front, and then we deal with all the rest of
Then
all the
whatever
other
power she
things.
uses.
Whether or not she's selling us power, we're buying her back, whether or not she had a battery and she was able to jump in on the peak. So that's good. And so that's, I just wanted to plan a message, and, you know, obviously Danvers, I think we need to slowly work into a customer charge, especially because it was so, you know, it was so hard on our customers. You know, we heard a lot on that, and they're like, it's really hard for them to think through, oh, I have this base fee. It's hard in there, you know, but we gotta get that way. We're heading that way. The increased sales, all of those things you mentioned about the heat pump, the electric cars, all of that, shows that our power sales, which have been very flat for 10 years now have been very flat, are predicted to go up because of all those new devices. And the theory behind that is, the places we buy our power are easier to clean up than it is to clean up everybody's boiler and, you know, to put a boiler, everybody's different things. We can provide the power. Rather than buy a hydrogen car, you buy an electric car that we give you clean power for. That's, so very important. On the solar net metering, which we already do, we're already working with our solar customers. Some of those may have batteries in their houses, or have cars that function as a battery. Are we gonna get into that? And we're headed that way, because now the electric cars are really finally coming. Braintree thought they were coming 6 years ago. Well, they're coming now. They didn't come 6 years ago. Just like, you know, all those projections. That means we're headed towards time of use power costs for the first time in order to partnership. And you're probably gonna see this winter proposal from us, pilot test on time of use power, which is gonna be a very complicated rate structure to communicate about to our customers. So we'll roll it out as a pilot. If Jason, you know, has a battery or at his home and he dispatches at a current time, it's worth a certain value to us. If he charges his car at a certain time, it's a certain value to us. So right now, the plan is to look at, you know, pilot test this probably this winter to get that going on.
Can I just comment briefly on the customer charge? That was something that was of interest to me, talking to other people and seeing how they're dealing with it. They're all looking at it, some of them have implemented it, and one of the speakers who lives in North Carolina mentioned that he pays a $37 a month customer charge. So our $750 that we implemented, you know, was chump change compared to what he's paying. So that's the way the industry's going. So we're gonna hear more about it. We're gonna talk about it. So, okay.
And as far as the future of our power supplies, where we're buying it from, you know, we're on our trajectory to hit the goals set by the state for where it comes from. We are gonna formalize that in our purchase power policy, which is gonna blend into, the town has just kicked off working on a climate action plan.
Great.
And we're gonna work with the town manager on that. Staff from Danvers Electric is working key with him. Others will be in the town, and we're headed towards a climate action plan.
Great, great.
So,
Steve, did you have any, were the board members' comments?
No, I think, you know, talking about the customer charge being, you know, in the industry, being, you know, seeing where the marketplace is, going to that conference, I was at that conference too, as you know. I do think that customer service charge to maintain the grid is significant. It needs to be addressed, and I think we slowly addressed it and introduced it. You know, it was recommended to be $23.20. We put in $7.50. But I think, talking to you, Mr. Bradstreet and Mr. Zubrick, I think you're going to be seeing that more and more as we see these charges come on, that we need to maintain the grid. We see it in water and sewer. We see it in other communities. I see it in other communities that that's sort of a normal and business practice. So
Yeah,
that's a comment I would like to make.
Okay. My last area of discussion is on communications. Communications are always tough. There is no question about it. If you look at guys like Clint and Jason and David, these guys are working straight out, no question about it in my mind. They got a lot on their plate, they got a lot to deal with. And when we went to the select board to talk about the customer charge, the message came through loud and clear that they're not happy with the lack of communication about our customer charge. We've heard that from you, Bill, we've heard it from Mark, we heard it in spades from the select board, that we really dropped the ball on communicating that. So I think, and then we get the DPW investigation report, and item number 10 on the DPW report is communication. Again, and they include with that transparency. So I think that's really something that we're hearing, from people in the town. We're hearing it from the select board. Now we heard it from the DPU. I really think that's a challenge for us. And I remember back to my working days, you don't have a lot of time to take on new stuff, but I think this is something that, we need to figure out how to do better. I was really impressed to see the new look to the website. That's the kind of thing we need, but to both Bill's point and Mark's point, not everybody is computer savvy. And I can remember in my days working, I had a role for a while as kind of an internal consultant. And one of the big things I told project leaders, putting something on a website, in those days it was called a shared folder, is not communicating. Because not everybody takes the time to go and look at the website or the shared folder or whatever it is. A lot of people in my generation don't like reading stuff on a screen. To your point, where can I get a paper copy? I'm the same way. I do read some stuff on screen, but believe me, I am not comfortable with that. So I think, and I think you mentioned, Bill, put it in the news, or maybe Mark, put it in the newspaper like we used to do. Well, newspapers are dying. It's not, they're not as available as they used to be. They're not as thorough as they used to be. They used to come that thick, now they're this thick. Communication is a real challenge for any business. It's harder to do, but that doesn't mean we can not do it. We've clearly heard that message. I think when we were at the select board, boy, all 5 of them, every one of them gave us a spanking on communication. And so that's a challenge going forward. And we got some pretty smart guys leading this business, but that's a challenge that I think you really need to move along with many other things to the front burner. We know that we're planning to be discussing in December, what do we do with the customer charge for next year? In my opinion, we need to start discussing that now. We need to have it in public. We need to be planning a presentation to the select board, to the town manager, maybe the town meeting. Well, town meeting's gone, so. But we need to figure out, have a communication plan on how do we get this word out so that people, 1, know it's coming, and 2, at least are those who are willing to look at the material or to seek information are able to see what it is, why it's important, and why it's necessary for the health of this business. And this is a business. This is an enterprise fund owned by the town of Danvers. It is a not-for-profit business, but it has to exist as a business. No business can exist that doesn't at least meet its cost and usually make a profit. We have to make a profit because we have obligations to the town which take the form of pilot payments and other back and forth with services as is mentioned in the Dpu report. So I see it as a big challenge for us. I really think that you guys need to come up with some kind of communication plan, and I think I would like to ask Stephanie that we add an agenda item for each month about where are we on communications? I see that from the feedback we've gotten in the last few months is a big challenge for us, and I think we ought to be talking about it every month. And I'm done. Bill?
When I attend different meetings and have questions, my last statement is, just tell me you're working on it. I think the general public would like to know you're working on it, not just this board, but put it out to the public. We're working on it. Just simple words. Thank you.
And in my opinion, it has to be multifaceted. We can put it on our Danvers Electric website, we have a town website. We use what, Wicked Local, I think you said is the service we use now? That's what the town uses. Wicked Local, does that sound right? I don't remember.
No, Wicked Local is an outside entity
Okay.
that helps send out information to town. We have sent information to that in the past, and
Okay.
we will continue to send it in the future.
Okay.
Not directly from us, but through the town's communication director.
Okay. So the town does have a communication.
Correct.
I didn't even know that, so.
The town manager has a communication director.
Okay.
We, as far as Danvers Electric, Public Works, have what's called a program coordinator. That's our communication person.
Okay.
That person was Gail Bernard.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Gail left back at the beginning of COVID,
Oh.
and we have not been able to fill that position since then.
Okay.
So we've been without that position it was frozen for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Now we've gotten permission to fill that job, and we're in the process of interviewing for that job right now. So we'll have our person back on board who assists with all of our PR, I call it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, as I say, I think it's a real challenge for us. It may be exacerbated by the lack of that person for the last couple of years. But I do really think it needs to be a front burner issue, so I would like to add it to the agenda. Does that make sense to you, Steve and Dave?
I think so.
It does, I think, yeah, we can improve, and we will be working on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think we'll put it on the agenda for a couple times, and just to show you that, so we gear up kind of doing how we used to do it.
Yeah.
And even improve on that, and then it will become then more of an update in the director's report of
Okay.
what communication we had up. But
Yeah, I don't think
as
it
far
needs
as-
to be forever, but I think it needs to be, at least for the short term.
Yep.
Something we're looking at.
Cool, to show the focus on it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we need to start talking about, and again, communicating, is where we're going with the customer charge.
Yep.
One of the things I didn't mention, which impressed me, was when we went to the select board, we got spanked by the first 4 members who talked for implementing a $7.50 customer charge and communicating poorly about it coming. The chairman said, I used to be on the MLB, I understand it, but what I wonder is why you didn't do the whole $23, and he compared it to the post office, where, they'll increase postage 5 or 10% at a whack, but then they won't increase it for 5 years. So they get all of the reaction at one time, and then people don't see a change to it for multiple years. And then hearing about the one in North Carolina that has a $37 customer charge already, I wonder about the approach you guys are gonna recommend to us, but I think that's something we need to think about. And, maybe it says we don't do it this year. Maybe we wait a year and then do it, go all the way in 2 years. So, I don't know, I think we need to.
Is that when you're 10 years off?
Yes, I will be done. Now, I'm fairly new to politics in the town. I'm almost completing my 4th year on the board, but this is the first time there's been any public turmoil about anything we did, and I absolutely believe we did the right thing. I think it was justified.
Well, I did
But
too.
we need to make sure we're out there this time. Yes, sir, Bill?
Again, at the select board meeting, I think that one, it was mentioned, I won't see by who, that we could expect an increase by the end of the year. So some people, either there or watching TV would know that or expect that. But again, it's the communication.
Yeah, it needs to be systematic and, clear.
Just in conclusion, if I may,
Yes, sir.
don't get captured by the silver lining around communications, because that's only one aspect of it. This municipal light company is in business to serve the Danvers residents, the customers, at a reasonable cost, and you've read that mission statement over and over again.
Yes.
And I think we need to revisit that, because one of the comments that at that meeting that you are referring to is that, why wasn't the rate reduced to compensate for the 750 or the 23, whatever you wanted to do? That was the comment that was made at the end. The problem is that we have to balance the customer issue and the politics issue in this town,
Yes.
because that is being driven on money. It's all about money.
Bottom line.
Pretty much everything is.
Okay.
Yep.
So don't get captured by that silver lining of communication. That's not going to solve everything.
No, I agree. Okay, next meeting.
How does October 26th look for everybody?
Should be okay for me.
Mr. Horn?
I'll be out of town.
Oop, okay,
Does the 19th look better or not?
I could do the 19th.
Hold on.
Oh, the 15th is the holiday.
Or 11.
Let's see, yeah, it's the 11th. This holiday. So that,
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
I know.
Clint, who's this Mike Johnson? What's this
So
presentation?
that's the presentation on the contribution aided construction policy update. They're the folks that did the cost of service study. They're the ones that come up with the new.
So we're locked into that?
We can change that.
Is the 19th, Mr. Horn, looking better?
That's fine, yeah.
Bill, how's the 19th?
As far as I know, it's fine.
It's early them to present at this meeting though, right?
It was supposed to be in October.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if it's the 19th, because we have a schedule for the 19th.
Oh, they're gonna present it here?
I thought they were gonna present it.
Yeah, we were gonna do a remote.
It says
presentation.
board meeting presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna present to this board, so
Oh,
if we
great.
schedule for the 19th, that's great, because.
That actually works out.
Okay, so we scheduled on when we thought the meeting was gonna be, so,
Yes.
okay.
Oh, yeah, back when it was the 14th, probably.
So smart.
Right,
Always
14 was gonna be the 9th, okay. All right, so we're good on the 9th, so right now we're planning on the 19th.
Okay,
Good.
good. And that will include cost of stuff, service study. Update, yeah?
It's,
Like line extensions, new service, upgrades.
Oh,
What the customer contributes to the utility to pay for the capital improvements.
so
oh,
when someone hires us to put a pole in or put line in, how we charge that. We're standardizing that.
oh, okay. All righty, sounds good. All right, next meeting will be October 19th. And I believe that completes the business for today. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will second that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.